I knew I wasn't their real dad, but I didn't think I'd hear it out loud. It happened in Chicago. A trendy lakeside restaurant Michelle picked from some wedding blog. Warm wood tones, hand-poured candles, staff in aprons that cost more than my shoes. We'd reserved a private room for 30 people to celebrate her daughter's engagement, Sarah and Emma, both of them beaming, surrounded by wine glasses and friends from their childhood. I paid for the reservation, paid for the plated menu, the floral centerpieces, the jazz trio. Michelle said it would mean a lot to them if we made it special. I'd been paying for special for 15 years, and maybe I still thought that counted for something. We sat at a long white table shaped like a capital I, tall arrangements of white roses rising from the center like guard towers. I was placed next to Michelle, 2 seats from Sarah, 4 from Emma, like I was a political guest at someone else's wedding. One of the grooms was giving a toast, Chris, I think. His voice bounced off the glass windows that faced the lake, and I watched the water instead. That's what I did best in that family. Show up, stay quiet, pay the tab. It was somewhere between the crab cakes and the lamb, when the wine was flowing fast and everyone was loose, that Sarah said it. Said it like a joke, like a punchline she'd been sitting on for years. She turned to Emma, loud enough for the whole room to hear, and laughed. Why is this impostor sitting with us? Where's our real, beloved dad? It landed like a fist through drywall. Sharp, ugly, undeniable. A ripple of nervous laughter spilled from their side of the table, the kind that's more about keeping your place than finding something funny. Forks slowed. The waiter nearest me flinched and looked down. I saw Michelle cover her mouth with a napkin, but she didn't look surprised. Not hurt, not even embarrassed. Just silent, like she'd been waiting for it too. I stared at her, just stared, waiting for her to say something, anything. She didn't. She just kept the napkin over her mouth like it could wipe away what was already said. I didn't speak, didn't react. That's the part no one ever mentions, how quiet humiliation can be. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was something worse, awake. I rose from my chair like I was going to the restroom. No one stopped me. I walked out of the private room, down the hallway to the hostess stand. Hi, I said quietly. Can I please remove my name from the group reservation and split the bill? Just the charges for the guests I invited. The hostess blinked, confused. Sir, are you sure? Very. I handed her my card. Signed without hesitation. 15 years of groceries, dentist appointments, dance recitals, tuition payments, Christmas trees, college visits. The math never added up in my favor. This wasn't new. I walked back to the table and sat alone at the corner by the window, next to the flickering candle no one had touched. Outside, Lake Michigan moved like a black mirror. Inside, the room was getting louder again. I wasn't part of it anymore. Maybe I never was. No one looked my way. I watched them. Michelle, Sarah, Emma. All radiant, all surrounded by their kind. They laughed, toasted, posed for pictures. The same man who'd funded their Vermont ski trips, their semester abroad, the Invisalign payments, the wedding photographer deposit. Now just a stranger in the room. It wasn't the first time I'd felt invisible, but it was the first time they let me know I actually was. And here's the thing. I never tried to be their father. Not exactly. I knew where I stood. I never asked to be called Dad. Never corrected them when they didn't. I stayed back, played the long game. I thought presence would earn respect, but they always made sure I knew that I was temporary, that I was tolerable until I wasn't. Their biological father, Martin, was the ghost they worshipped. He hadn't paid a dime since 2009. Didn't return texts unless it was near their birthdays. But his shadow still loomed large over every room. Sarah used to cry about how he forgot her 13th birthday, then turn around and post a filtered photo of him with the caption, "My hero." Emma once told Michelle she wished Martin had fought harder in the divorce, as if love was measured in court appearances. But me, I was just the guy who made sure their insurance cards worked. The restaurant staff started bringing out dessert, little towers of cake on ceramic slabs. A sparkler in each, a flourish of applause. Sarah stood, raised her glass. Her voice lifted, theatrical, made for the moment. I just want to thank my mom. First of all, she said, eyes shining. She's been our rock, our everything. And of course, to our dad, our real dad, Martin, you've always been our hero. Applause. Cheers. Emma stood beside her and clapped. Michelle wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. I sat with an empty coffee cup and a bus ticket home in my pocket. No mention of me, no glance, not a single acknowledgement that I'd paid for the night, or the last 15 years. Not a single thank you. That was the moment. Not the insult, not the napkin. That moment, the speech, that silence. That's when I realized what I was to them. A checkbook with shoes. Not family, not blood, not even memory. I didn't eat dessert. I waited for the room to stop clapping. Then I stood up, tucked the receipt into my coat pocket, and left the room without saying goodbye. Back in the hotel, I sat at the edge of the bed. Michelle came in an hour later. She didn't mention what happened, didn't ask why I left. She changed out of her dress, sat in front of the mirror, and began wiping off her makeup. I said nothing. Neither did she. That was our truce. Silence in exchange for endurance. That night, I opened the wedding planning account on my laptop, the one where we'd booked the venue, catering, the photo package, the deposit for the custom arch Sarah wanted flown in from Oregon. My card was still on file. I deleted it. One by one, I canceled each pending transfer. Total, $17,248. I didn't send a message. I didn't leave a note. I just clicked cancel, closed the laptop, and turned off the light. No yelling, no argument, just subtraction. That's how it starts. Not with a bang. With the quiet decision of a man who's finally done paying to be disrespected. Because if I'm not family, I'm not financing it. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always feel like a knife. Sometimes it feels like nothing. A dull, slow disconnection, like the power going out one room at a time until you realize you've been sitting in the dark for hours. The morning after the engagement party, Michelle made coffee. I watched her from across the hotel suite, back turned to me in that silk robe I bought her last Christmas. She stirred sugar into her mug like nothing had happened. No apology, no mention of Sarah's insult, just silence. Calculated, comfortable. Want some? She asked. I didn't answer, because the truth was, I wanted to see if she'd fill the silence with anything real, something that sounded like regret, something that acknowledged what she'd allowed, what she'd let them say to me. She didn't. She sipped her coffee, picked up her phone, scrolled through the photos from the night before. Emma's dress really popped under the chandeliers, she murmured, almost to herself. Good call on that venue. The photographs beautifully. That was it. She used to be a different woman. Or maybe I used to be a different man. Someone who believed that love meant swallowing disrespect, as long as it didn't make a scene. But what Sarah said, what Michelle didn't say. That wasn't a scene. That was the curtain falling. I checked my watch. Bus left in 20 minutes. Michelle didn't look up when I grabbed my coat. You're not staying for brunch? No, I said. My voice didn't rise. You've got your family. She blinked, like the words didn't register. It's just brunch. No, it wasn't. It was proof. Proof that 15 years of fatherhood by labor, not blood, meant nothing. I didn't share their name, so I didn't share their table. I didn't look back when I left. Didn't take the elevator down with her. Didn't offer to split a cab. Just walked to the terminal, sat by the window with a bitter coffee, and waited for the bus to take me back to my empty house. When I got home, the place was still. Michelle wouldn't be back for a few days. She was staying behind with the girls to tour florists and cake tastings. The silence wrapped around me like a cold coat, and I wore it gladly. That night, I opened the wedding account again, watched the numbers scroll across the screen. I'd already canceled the remaining venue and catering payments. But there was still more. The floral installment, the DJ retainer, the tuxedo rentals, the second photographer for Emma's side of the aisle. All of it tied to me. $17,248. Still pending on my cards. Scheduled to clear in the next 2 weeks. So I shut it down. Each payment. One by one. Click. Cancel. Click. Refund requested. Click. Card removed. Like a man unplugging life support from a patient who had declared him a stranger. No rage. No revenge. Just precision. Then I opened my email. There was a message from the rehearsal dinner venue. Hi, Michael. Just confirming your payment for the second installment. Due tomorrow. Let us know if you need any changes to your card. I replied, I'm no longer involved. Simple. 5 words. No signature. I turned off the laptop and went to bed. The next evening at 9:43 p.m. My phone buzzed. Rehearsal dinner venue again. Your payment didn't go through. Please confirm a new method. I didn't reply. At 10:06 p.m. Michelle called. I let it ring. Twice. She tried again at 10:12. I answered. What the hell is going on? She snapped. I just got an email from the caterer. They said your card was declined. Did something happen? I said nothing. Michael. You tell me. I said. I thought I was an impostor. Thought I wasn't family. So I stopped paying like I was. The silence on her end cracked. Sharp inhale, lips parting. Oh, come on, she said finally. Are you really that thin-skinned? It was a joke. Sarah had too much wine. She didn't mean it. No, I said. She did. You all did. That room just gave you permission to say what you've been thinking for years. She sighed. The exhale of a woman who sees money walking away. This isn't about you, Michael. It's their day. Don't make it about your pride. My pride. I almost laughed. I gave 15 years of my life to girls who never once called me Dad. I paid for their braces, their dorms, their broken-down cars. I gave them a future. And now that the party's come, I'm the stranger at the table? I'm the punchline? Her voice lowered, defensive. You know they love you, even if they don't always say it. No, I said. They don't. And I finally believe them. I hung up. She texted. Paragraphs. Apologies mixed with guilt. Then came Sarah's message, short, venomous. You ruined the most important day of our lives. I stared at the screen, let the words settle. Then typed back. Your real dad is with you. Let him pay for the most important day. No response. I turned off the phone. Over the next few days, it unraveled fast. The florist dropped out. The DJ pulled his slot. The photographer canceled. The planner emailed Michelle with a passive-aggressive warning. Payment must be resolved within 72 hours, or we'll release your date. I said nothing. I watched it happen like a man watching a house burn that he no longer lives in. Michelle called. Emma texted. Even Chris, Sarah's fiancé, sent a hesitant message asking if we could chat. I didn't answer. I wasn't angry. I was awake. From what I heard, because people talk even when you don't ask, the wedding still happened. But it was stripped to the bone. No live music. No plated dinner. Guests drank wine from plastic cups and ate room-temperature chicken from foil trays. The bar ran out in an hour. The second photographer didn't show. The arch Sarah wanted flown in from Oregon never arrived. And her beloved dad? Martin? He sat in the front row, wearing a rented suit and confusion. When the waitstaff came around asking who was covering the remaining bar tab, he smiled like they were speaking French. He didn't pay a cent. He didn't even know the vendor names, because he was never built for responsibility. He was built for moments, birthdays, and Instagram photos, one-liners and handshakes. He's the kind of father who leaves the frame once the camera flash fades. And now he was all they had. After the wedding, the messages came again. First, rage. Then regret. Chris reached out. He said he finally understood who had really been there. He asked if we could talk, maybe over coffee. I didn't reply. Michelle tried again. She said she should have spoken up, that Sarah didn't mean it like that. That I should have let it go for the sake of the day. I didn't reply. Sarah, meanwhile, sent me a new message. You betrayed us. She said I'd humiliated her, that I'd made her wedding a cautionary tale. I read the words, then deleted them, because here's what no one wants to say. Sometimes the lesson is the gift. Sometimes absence teaches more than presence ever could. And me? I've been sleeping better than I have in years. No more late-night transfers. No more carrying a family that never acknowledged my hands under their weight. No more paying to be invisible. A month later, I heard Martin had vanished again. Right when the final vendor invoices hit. Michelle covered some of it. The rest? Unknown. The fairy tale ended in a bounce check. And I kept my silence. Because I don't pay for roles I was never actually given. The world didn't explode. It didn't come crashing down in fire and fury like they probably imagined it would. No one showed up at my door with fists raised. There were no dramatic ultimatums. Just silence. Silence from Michelle. Silence from Sarah and Emma. Silence from their so-called real dad. For a few days, that silence was enough for them. Maybe they thought I was bluffing. That I'd cool down. That I'd crawl back with my checkbook in hand and some tired apology about overreacting. But I didn't. Because you don't walk back from being called an impostor in a room you paid for. You don't forget watching a woman you shared a bed with turn her face away while her daughter erased 15 years of your life in front of 30 people. No, some things don't unbreak. And when the silence became too heavy for them to carry, they cracked. Not with apologies, but accusations. Michelle was the first. "You embarrassed them," she said over the phone one night. No greeting, no warmth. Just those 3 words like a verdict already signed. I didn't argue. They had to cut half the guest list. Emma cried for 2 days. Sarah had to downgrade her dress. You're punishing them for one comment. One comment. 15 years boiled down to a single defense. It was just one comment. But it wasn't one comment. It was every missed thank you. Every time they talked about their real family, in front of me like I wasn't standing right there. Every Christmas where I paid for everything, only to be cropped out of the photos they posted online. Every time they walked past me in the hallway, eyes glued to their phones, never offering more than a grunt. That night in Chicago, that wasn't a moment. That was a confession. They finally said out loud what they'd always made me feel. That I didn't belong. So I acted accordingly. I stopped being a father in every way that counted. Emma texted next. Her tone was different. Not hostile. Calculated. "Can we talk?" I waited 5 hours before responding. "About what?" Her reply came quickly. "The band canceled. The new DJ wants full payment up front. Mom said the funds aren't coming through anymore." I read it twice. No greeting. No apology. No mention of what she or Sarah had done. Just a logistical problem. A bill without a name attached to it anymore. I didn't answer. A few days later, Michelle called again. Her voice was tired this time, brittle at the edges. "I don't want to fight," she said. I want to understand. Is this really how you want things to end?" "I didn't end anything," I said. "Sarah did. You did. I just stopped pretending." She hesitated. I could hear her breathing, the phone shifting against her cheek. "I know that night was ugly," she said. "But she was drunk. You know how she gets. You've always said they were just kids." "They're not kids anymore," I said. "They're adults. Getting married. Starting lives. And they still treat me like the help." "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What's not fair is funding a life for 2 people who won't even acknowledge I exist unless they need money." Her silence stretched across the line like a rope fraying at the ends. "She still wants you at the wedding," Michelle said finally. I laughed. Couldn't help it. "She wants my wallet at the wedding," I said. "Tell her the wallet's not coming. And neither am I." That was the last time we spoke. After that, everything came apart faster than I expected. Word got around. Family friends started whispering. Vendors pulled out. The church had to switch dates because the deposit hadn't cleared. Emma posted a vague message on social media about how some people just want to see others suffer. Michelle shared it with a sad face emoji and a caption about holding your daughters close in tough times. Not once did anyone mention my name. I was the villain in shadow, unnamed but understood. Chris tried one last time. He emailed me, said he respected me, that he knew I had done more than most biological fathers ever would, that he understood why I was hurt, but asked if we could meet halfway. Not for them, he wrote. For me. For the future I'm building with Sarah. I want to start it right. I almost respected that. Almost. But then I remembered the look on his face the night she called me an impostor. The way he laughed. The way he clinked his glass with hers and didn't once glance in my direction. He stood by while I was erased. And now he wanted grace? No. Grace is for those who fall by accident. Not for those who push. The wedding happened barely. From what I was told, it was a patchwork affair. Mismatched linens, a buffet instead of a plated dinner, an iPad playing a Spotify playlist instead of live music. Half the guests left before dessert. The photographer missed the kiss because his assistant got the time wrong. And Martin, the beloved dad, he showed up late, left early, didn't bring a gift, stared at his phone through most of the reception. When the bill came due for the extra wine and chairs, costs I used to quietly handle, he looked at Michelle and said, "You didn't tell me there'd be more." Because of course he did. Because that's who he's always been. The charming absentee. The man who gets credit for a legacy he never built. The ghost who haunts pictures he was never present for. The father they wanted, even if he was never there. And me? I was the scaffolding. The man who built their lives so someone else could take the credit. I raised them so he could return for the applause. Well, not anymore. The week after the wedding, I started changing everything. Passwords, banking details, legal documents. I pulled my name off shared accounts. Canceled the emergency credit cards they used, just in case. Took back the spare keys I'd given them over the years. I rewrote my will. People think revenge is loud. But it's not. It's patient, quiet, surgical. I removed them from every corner of my life the same way they'd removed me from theirs. Without warning, without discussion, without a single ounce of recognition for what was being taken. Michelle never came home. Not really. She returned to the house a week later, but something was gone in her. That version of her I'd known, warm, funny, full of fire, had been replaced by something tight and cold. She moved through the house like a tenant waiting for a lease to expire. She spoke in short sentences, ate in silence. We never fought. There was nothing left to fight for. One night, she stood at the foot of our bed and asked, "So that's it?" I looked up from the book in my lap. "You stood by and let them gut me in public," I said. "And now you want to talk about what's fair?" I didn't know what to say. That's the problem. She didn't answer. I didn't either. She left the next morning. Took 2 suitcases, her laptop, and the framed photo of the girls from the mantel. She didn't leave a note. Didn't text. Just disappeared quietly, like she'd been planning it. I didn't stop her, because I'd already lost her long ago. Probably the first time she let Sarah cut me off in front of company and laughed it off as just how she is. Or maybe it was the time she told me not to discipline them because they've already lost one dad, don't make it worse. Or maybe it was that night in Chicago, when she covered her mouth and hid her smile behind a napkin while they fed me to the room. Either way, she was never mine to lose. And so the house went quiet again. Clean. Empty. Honest. I started sleeping with the windows open. Started walking after dinner. Started spending my own money on things I actually wanted. A new chair. Better tools for the garage. A record player. I listened to Miles Davis on the porch at night, glass of whiskey in hand, and let the wind carry away the echoes of girls who never called me anything but Michael. A month later, I got an email from Sarah. The subject line was one word. Why? I didn't open it, because she already knew. 3 weeks passed before I heard anything real. Not a forwarded bill. Not a vague text or social media guilt post. Not Michelle's name lighting up my phone at midnight before disappearing again. It was Chris. He showed up at my door on a Thursday. No warning. I didn't answer right away. Watched him through the window, shifting from foot to foot on the porch, holding his phone in one hand like it might shield him. He was clean-shaven, wearing the same dress shirt he wore to his engagement photos. His eyes never stopped scanning the trees, the sidewalk, the mailbox. like he was afraid someone might see him coming to me. I opened the door, slowly. No greeting. I wanted to say something. He started, voice low. Face to face. I let the silence stretch. I didn't move. Didn't invite him in. He took that for what it was and continued anyway. I was wrong, he said. Back then. At the party. I laughed because everyone else did. It was awkward and I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't nod. Didn't blink. He swallowed. But I saw what happened. After. What it cost. The wedding wasn't the same without you. Emma cried in the bathroom during the reception. Sarah, she's been angry. But underneath that, I think she knows. Knows what? He didn't say. He looked at me like a student trying to guess the answer before the teacher moves on. But this wasn't a test. It was sentencing. And the sentence had already been passed. I didn't come to ask for money, he said. Or to fix anything. I just wanted you to know. I understand now. Who really stood up. Who really built this thing they've been standing on. He paused. Waited. Hoped. I gave him nothing. Eventually he nodded. Eyes low. Anyway, that's all. He turned and left. Got into his car and didn't look back. I closed the door. That night Michelle called again. I almost didn't answer. But something in me, the part that used to believe in closure, picked up. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask about the house. She just dove in. They miss you, she said. Even if they don't say it. They've had 15 years to say it, I said. She went quiet. Then, I made mistakes. Yes, she had. I should have defended you, she added. I should have shut it down that night. I knew what they meant. I knew how it looked. You didn't just let it happen, I said. You watched, and then you cried for him. Her breath caught. You said it was just a joke. I reminded her. But you knew it wasn't. You knew it was the truth they'd been trying to say for years. And you let them say it. Because deep down you agreed. No, she whispered. Yes, I said. You agreed. You never said it. But you never corrected them. You never told them I was their father, even when I paid for everything. Even when I was the one who showed up. You let them believe I was optional. I didn't want to push them. No, I said again. You just didn't want to lose their love. So you spent mine instead. Silence. Then, what do you want from me, Michael? Nothing. It landed like a slap. Then what was all of this for? I let the words settle. Let her ask the question that had been hanging for years. All of this, I said, was for a family that never saw me as part of it. She said my name. Soft. Broken. But I was already hanging up. Because that's what people like her always do in the end. They come back not because they understand what they took, but because they need it again. They need the ground you built, the roof you paid for, the love you gave out like breadcrumbs to birds that never stopped flying away. But I was done feeding people who only came back when they were starving. A week passed, then two, and then Sarah showed up. Not a message, not a voicemail. She came to the house. My house. The one she used to call Mom's place. Like I didn't help lay the tile in the kitchen. Didn't fix the pipe that burst in her old bathroom when she was in college. She looked older. Tired. Not like a bride. Like a woman whose illusions were running on fumes. I didn't open the door for her. I watched through the curtain as she stood there, holding her phone like a lifeline. Probably hoping I'd give her a second chance. Probably rehearsing some version of, I didn't mean it. But she did. And we both knew it. Eventually, she slid a note under the door. I didn't pick it up. I left it there. Let the air curl it. The dust settle. Let it turn into a reminder. Not of her, but of me. Of who I used to be. The man who would have opened the door the first time. The man who always listened. Always paid. Always stayed. I buried that man. And in his place stood someone who finally understood the cost of being a ghost in your own home. So now here I am. Living alone in a house I used to fill with laughter that wasn't mine. Sitting on furniture I paid for. Surrounded by walls that watched me disappear one piece at a time. People ask if I'm bitter. No. Bitterness is a wound that stays open. I'm something colder. Something cleaner. I'm done. I don't celebrate holidays anymore. Not with them. I don't send gifts. Don't call. Don't chase birthdays or anniversaries. I stopped tracking the details of people who erased me the first chance they got. And they still don't understand. They think I'm being cruel. They think I'm punishing them. But I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply absent. Like they always said I was. Like they always wanted me to be. The truth is, I don't miss them. I miss the idea of them. The family I thought I was part of. The warmth I thought I'd earned. The respect I thought time would grant me like interest on a long-term investment. But respect doesn't grow. It's given. Or withheld. And in this family it was always withheld. What I gave them, what I paid, built, carried, that's their inheritance now. Not my presence. Not my love. Just the evidence of a man who once stood in the gap and decided it wasn't enough. And now I get to live with the aftermath. Peaceful. Empty. Real. No more pretending. No more waiting. No more explaining. Just me. So I ask you, if you've made it this far, what would you have done? Would you have kept paying for their futures with your silence? Would you have stayed in that room and laughed with them after they called you an impostor? Would you have paid for their weddings, their apartments, their lives, just to be told you were never really part of it? Or would you have walked away? Would you have cut the cord? Would you have left them to stand on the ground they thought built itself? Tell me, was I wrong? Or did I just stop lying to myself?